Hi guys, my name's Elisa and welcome to episode 10 on this playthrough of the island. We started out putting some levels into Nerves, our catcher that we got last episode. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check it out because it was a doozy. So we pumped a whole heap of levels into melee and into health for this guy because he is going to be what leads us on our tech cave when we go to Ascend at the very end of the series. We absolutely demolished everything in our path with this guy. So much fun to run around on the back of this thing. I think one of the best things about the catcher is that rage meter down the bottom. When that gets filled, he is so fast and does so much damage. It is a heck of a lot of fun. Once we were done with him, I wanted to go out and find a Diplodocus. They're essentially a mobile scuba suit when you go in the water. They make trips in the water so much easier and you can level them fairly well in movement speed, so that you don't need a scuba and you can move quite quick. It's actually really fun to have a run around. I did get a bit close to the water and got kicked off my RG and embroiled in this mess and lost the Diplo for a little bit, but we found it thankfully, mostly because it was bright red. And as I was getting him back home, along the way I spotted this rhino. I really want to get one of these for this season, so I needed the pheromone from this male. So I dropped the Diplo somewhere safe, hasn't been tamed yet, just dropped it somewhere where I thought it wasn't going to get eaten so I can go deal with this super low level male and get the pheromone from it. And I also spotted a second one, and I spent a really long time trying to find this first Diplo, so finding the second one I had to get that up somewhere safe too. So I dropped the first one off and went and found the second one, and I was really hoping at this point that they would be a mate pair. And sure enough, this one was a female. So I took the second one home knowing that the first one was in a safe place. I got that taming up and went back for the first one so I can bring that one home and get that one tamed as well. We got that one dropped in the little pen that I can use to tame it. But as I was flying in, I spotted this really cool looking Kano, and I had a Kano bone costume that I wanted to see what it looked like pretty much. I hadn't used it before. So this one was low enough level that it was only going to take a couple of arrows. I figured why not, it's right by my gate, super easy to get home. So we decided to tame this one too. I also made some absorbent substrate and a gas mask because I really want to get to doing the artifacts shortly, and that will mean that I can get the swamp cave underway. I also made this little staircase that I can get up to the top of the platform so I can park the tappy and the quets up there, and they'll be out of the way, but I can still get to them. We got the Diplos situated, got the Kano situated, and got everyone where they needed to be while I popped that costume on the Kano. Then I really wanted a Bessie. So we went out on the Dolphin, which had already taken a bit of a beating. So I had to be careful, but we got some health back into it by harvesting some fish, and we went out on our way to explore the oceans, try and get ourselves a basilosaurus to do the underwater caves. I also wanted to put some levels onto this Ichthy. The best way that I've found is just to kill absolutely everything in sight. So we took on some things that we maybe shouldn't have taken on, but I did it and I won, and the dolphin's still alive, so that's the main thing. I didn't actually see there what it was that was coming after us, but as soon as I realized it was the Moser, I decided to get out of there, because Mosers kind of scare me a bit, especially on something that's this low level. And with a couple of megalodons coming in, I decided it was time to get out of there. I really didn't think I was at the point with this dolphin where I would be able to take on alphas, so after seeing the alpha megalodon I decided to get as close and sure as I could, because it still needed some healing and I didn't want to die in the middle of the ocean. It turned out, however, that the shallows are still not as safe as they could be, and things still wanted to try and take a bite. So I couldn't let that stand, and it's just thankful that the dolphin's got better maneuverability than this alpha shark. And taking on the alpha made me a little bit overconfident, and I decided to take on the Tuso too. I was really glad it was low level because I didn't check beforehand. But at least now I've got some Tuso tentacles and some black pearls. All the bassies I'd been finding were super low level, so these two were the highest level I'd found so far. The first one I decided to leave behind, but the second one, even though it wasn't the best level, I still decided to tame it. I forgot to start with that I had kibble with me for exactly this purpose. So I did start taming it with fish after I got rid of all the mantas around. But at the next feed I did remember I had the kibble, and it only took one extra feed after that one. Once it was tamed, I got it cryoed up so I can get it home safe and sound. And then we spotted this super cool looking Bessie that I couldn't see what the level was. It was half phased into the rock, into the mesh, so it wouldn't let me see what the level was. But it looked so cool, I couldn't leave it behind, and for some reason the mantas weren't aggroing onto me, so it was a super easy tame. Literally took one kibble to tame that thing, and then I got it cryoed up. Unfortunately, it was a super low level. After being tamed, it was a level 23, so it was definitely the first one that was going to be our level up for the caves. So I went back on shore. I was done in the ocean, kind of over it. For some reason, I thought it was a good idea to tame a Pelagornis because I didn't want to go back via the ocean. This Pelagornis was a fairly good level, especially after tame, but even with the saddle, I was way too heavy. So I had to give up on that idea, and I did end up going back home on the Ichthys because it was kind of my only option. Then I took Tyler out for a stroll, and this thing is just as fun as the Karcher. After I was done with the Tyler, I spotted another unicorn. And would you believe it? It's a female. We got a mate pair! So I took it home and went to tame it, and this thing was so much harder than the first unicorn tame. It was painful. I couldn't even get close to this thing for so long. It took hours, and I kept having to fly out of render because in the paddock like this, it just wouldn't de-aggro. But eventually I got it tamed. Somehow I managed to lose the footage of actually taming it, but I placed out the first one that we had from a couple of episodes ago and got them both wandering, so now they're quite happily hanging out in the paddock together. After that, it was time to level the Bessie. I'd had to go home to craft a saddle for this thing, because even though I'd intended to get one to start with, I didn't think about crafting a saddle. Right as I was getting sorted, this Megalodon very rudely interrupted us, and the Bessie decided that I wasn't helping enough, so it wanted to swim away. It did eventually decide that I was worth hanging out with again though. So we went around on the Bessie. I managed to find this underwater loot crate, which I was stoked about. Didn't really have anything useful for us in it, but it does show that they're around, and now I know at least where this one is for when I need it. And we went around and killed absolutely everything again. I pumped almost every level into health and into melee on this thing. So this Bessie became an absolute beast. I decided that I wanted to try and take out this alpha mosa, but it bit hard. So I wanted to heal up a little bit first. Once I was out of its range, however, it didn't really want anything to do with me. It kind of disappeared and I don't know where it went. Even though I couldn't find the alpha, I decided to carry on and annihilate pretty much anything that aggroed onto us. I kind of left the things alone because they're dolphins and I felt like it. I thought it was mean. I don't know why it's okay to kill the Moses and not the dolphins, but apparently it is. So yeah, we annihilated absolutely everything in our path. Also harvested these ammonites for their bile, so we can make some antidotes with it, just to have as backup just in case we get mega rabies again, which honestly, if we're going caving, is fairly likely. One thing about the ammonites is after you have a bit of a munch, everything hates you. just for that, well, the timer ticks down, but I shouldn't have been sitting around here, really. Once I was done leveling the Bassie, I decided to head back, and on our way back we got a couple of extra cheeky little things for the XP, like this Mosa. But we headed back and I got all of the stuff off the Bassie and headed home to make the antidote that we talked about earlier. Bassie had actually collected a lot of stuff, so when I picked it all up, I couldn't move. I was very heavily encumbered. So I dropped this whole big pile of stuff so that I could get back to the RG and we can get that ammonite bile home before it spoils. we made the antidote up, and then all my footage had another glitch. I lost all the audio, I had all the visual, but no audio this time, so the opposite issue of last time. But we found a Giga in the snow. It's a super awesome red and pink, and I really wanted it. But my trap was way less than desired. So I ended up trying to tame this thing on foot, and you'll see just how well that went. It is only a level 12, but even for such a low level, this thing was a monster. I can't believe the amount of health and torpor that this thing had, and I completely and utterly forgot how quickly Giga's torpor drops. It is insane how fast their torpor goes down. The pots and trank arrows in it, and then we were in for a chase. I didn't really want to get too close. I wanted to try and stay up on these shelfy bits, especially before this thing was running from torpor, because I knew, I did not have to experience, I knew that this thing was going to hit hard. It is only a low level, but it is still a Giga. After what felt like a lot of arrows that went into this thing, I really thought it was on the run. I really thought that it was torpor running. And I decided to chase after it on foot. But with this thing's torpor drop and my inability to continue hitting it while running, it was no longer running. And this thing bites hard. My armor was gone super fast, and I knew that I had to get out of there. But it was all for nothing. Too late. And there's the first death of the season on episode 10. At this point, I still wanted to tame this thing. But my RG was there and I had to save it. And I hadn't put a sleeping bag down, so I had to come all the way from home again. And the RG was starting to look ropey. Not that you can tell, but I was whistling it like mad. It just got to the point where I decided I had to help. This Giga had to go down. and if I'd been much slower, I really think I would have lost the RG. So I checked to make sure that we had the Giga Heart, because at least then we got something out of this whole escapade, and collected my stuff so that we could go home. I want to thank each and every one of you who have been watching these episodes. I really appreciate every single one of you. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps me out so much, and it lets me know that you want me to continue making these videos. Thank you so much, guys.